Now let us see how to create information in multiple tables. I want to create a simple website in which I list all the offerings of classes for a particular quarter, and I let students register to them. Okay, so I want to create a controller offerings. Action offerings. And what I'm doing here is just an example. So I will hard code actually the quarter to be the present one. Okay, so action.uses, and I want to have db auth and offerings.html. Okay, def offerings. And here I want to do a database query that lists all the offerings of a particular quarter. So I do a db rows is equal to db, and then here I write my query. So I say db dot quarter dot year is equal to 2021, and db dot quarter dot season is equal to spring. Okay, so this selects a particular quarter, and now I want all the offerings for this particular quarter, and so I want to say db dot class offering dot quarter id is equal to db.quarter.id. Okay, so this encodes that arrow. And so this would pick out all the offerings of that quarter, but it would not pick out actually any information about what the catalog class is. So even though I don't select for the catalog class, I want to fish out the information out of the database. And so I will also say db.class offering catalog class id is equal to db.catalog class.id. Okay, so this is my complete query. Then I say select to actually send the query to the database. This will return a bunch of rows, and I'm simply gonna return these rows to the view. So I'm gonna say return dictionary of rows is equal to rows. It's a very hard-coded site, okay? It's just as a simple example. So now let me go build the view for these. Okay, so I take here in the templates, I'm gonna take the index template, duplicate it just to be fast, and call it offerings. Okay. So the name matches. And now I want to write some code here. Okay, so I want to create a table, and I will create it quite quickly. Okay, so I will simply say table. So what do I want to list in the table? I want to list the class number, the class name, the quarter I don't need, it is constant, and then I want to put a button that says register. Okay, that's all. So I will have essentially td, so sorry, this is a row, so row, table row, and inside these I will put class number, okay, class name, and then I will put an empty one that will be simply a placeholder for the content. Okay, so the table class is equal to is striped, is full width. Okay, something like this to make it look a little bit more decent. Okay, and at this point I wanted to iterate over all these rows and produce one row per class offering. Okay, so I want to say for r in rows, and I immediately say pass so I don't forget. Okay, and here what do I do? Well, this is gonna be a row, so I might as well begin and end it. So there is gonna be the class number. So and here I have to say row dot, and I have to say the table name, and the table name is written here, right? Is catalog class r dot catalog class dot name. Okay, then there will be another thing that will be r dot catalog class name, actually, because this was number. Okay, and here I have to fashion a registration button. So let me do some attempt at it. Okay, so how does a button look like? Well, it's an it's a link, right? So it's an A tag for a link of class is equal to button, and then it has well, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted an href field. This will be where it points to. Okay, let me fill in later a moment. So in the button, what I want to have is I can simply write add, not to waste time here with the example. So what do I put as URL? I wanted to say, to give in the URL the information that the student is registering to a particular offering. So the thing that seems reasonable to add in the URL is the offering ID, right? That is what distinguishes to what you actually want to register. So here it will be a URL that will point to a controller that is called register. Okay, and as argument I will give it row dot, let's look here. The row has a class offering. Okay, class offering, and it has an ID. Okay, so the URL will look something like register/37, where 37 is the class offering to which we are registering. Okay, so this will just generate this table with the buttons, nothing else than this. So let us see how this works. I need to restart everything. I watch out for errors. So in this case there are none, and to see these at work I should go to the offerings URL. So let me do that. Here I was pre-filling the database with some information, and so now I can go to this application here and say, so the name of the app I'm building is called Lecture Creating DB, Lecture Creating DB, and I go to offerings. Okay, and I get a truly misshapen piece of information. Okay, why is it so misshapen? Well, various reasons. The main one is that here I forgot that I actually have to fish out the information using the template controls. Okay, this was simply a distraction. So if I fix these, I don't need to reload actually, and I get something that looks a little bit better, but still this doesn't look very nice, and it's probably because I forgot some styling that Bulma is peculiar about. And so if I do these, yes, now this looks like well, you know, not perfect, but it looks like a table. And now I need to be able to write some code. Okay, so I see that this is an incorrect r.classOffering.id, and this should actually be yes, again I made this mistake of forgetting the equal. You see, I could deduct it because in some way this URL that is here is meaningless. it says simply r.classOffering.id. It does not say anything more clever than that. And this again because I forgot this equal sign, just as I have to have it here and there. Okay, so if I now simply save this and reload the page, at this point, yes, I have lecture creating db / register /1. So this works, and I now have to go do this controller. So you have seen also a little bit of debugging. When the information you see on the screen looks garbled, don't lose your cool, just go back in the template and try to fix it. In this case, the errors were really quite simple. Okay, so let me now design the page in which you can register. To make the example slightly more interesting, here in the registration table, this is a student ID that registers for a particular class offering, and I added a note field in which the student can leave a message for the instructor, for instance. So let us design it. Action register, action.uses db auth.user. I wanted the user to be logged in because I wanted the registration to apply to the logged in user. Register.html, and I will put in session, even though I think it's implied by auth user. Okay, this is because I want to create a form. So def register. And so the first thing that I need to do is that actually I'm not registering in general, right? But you're registering to a particular offering ID. So offering ID, which happens to be an integer. Okay, so offering ID. And the other thing is that we want a form here. Essentially, I want to display to the user a form that says, are you sure you want to register to this class? If so, leave a note, and then confirm and delete a couple of buttons, very simply, okay? So, so this page should be accessible via methods get, and also via method post, because it would serve as usual a form. So the first task for us here is to read from the offering ID the information about the class. Okay, so assert offering ID is not none. And then I want to make a query to the database in which from the class offering I want to look up the catalog class, okay, and the quarter to show a confirmation message. I want to essentially show the user, this is the class, this is a quarter, do you wish to register? And there is a note field that I will ask the student to fill in. Okay, so I want to do that. So I do a query on the database for finding the information about the class, db.catalog class. I think I can copy some of the previous query, in fact. So I copy these two pieces. Okay. So this relates the class offering quarter ID to the quarter and the catalog ID to the catalog ID. Okay. And to this I add, maybe on top, that db.class_offering.id is equal to offering ID. Okay, so this is going to be my database query. Okay, and I can say select, and I expect that there will be only one solution to this. There is only one offering. And so instead of iterating over the results, a neat trick is to say first. If you say first, it will give you either none or the first element of the selection. And it's a trick that I use often when I'm sure that there is at most one of these things that satisfy this. Okay, so I say offering info is equal to this. Okay, and then I want to make sure that this information is not none. because I want the offering to actually exist. Otherwise, I think a server error will be fine to generate. So assert offering info is not none. Okay, so at this point, I have the info to show to the user, and so I will need to do more things in this controller, but let me get started with the template a moment. And so I say return dictionary offering info is equal to offering info. I haven't yet given to the user any way of registering, right? But I just want to start by displaying this information. And so I can create here the controller that is called register. Okay, I copy a template that is called index and call it register. Okay, and again, I'm designing this in an extreme hurry, so I'm not doing it, making it nice in any possible way. And so I will simply have a list of div, okay, in which I say, for example, a class, and here I will have offering info dot catalog class dot number. Okay, so this will fish out the information about the class number. Then I want to put the class name. Okay, so this will produce something like a CSE 183 web apps. Okay, maybe I should put some spaces. They're not significant in HTML, the spaces in any case. Okay, so this does it. And then I want to say some information about the quarter, I guess. Again, this is very, very rough. I'm just trusting that it will be enough for an example. And so here I will say quarter. Well, actually I can just say which quarter, okay? So I want to say first the name of the season. So offering info dot quarter dot how is it called? You know, you often have to refer year and season. Okay, so season, and then I want here offering info dot quarter dot year. Okay, this should work. It's probably gonna look mildly horrible, but it might even work, and that's all I want to try at the moment. So I want to reload and go check whether this actually works. So if I click here, I should see that, and I just see this. Okay, so this is good. Now I will need to put this form in which you can write a note, and a button to confirm and a button to cancel, and then I need to process that. Okay, so those are my next tasks. Okay, let me continue then. Here I should again, this is pretty badly done. Maybe I should have a div class is equal to block to do a bit of spacing. Okay, sorry, this is now a bit better. Another block here, div class is equal to block, and here I want to write something like this. I want to say div if you would like to register, please leave a message for the instructor. This is just an example, okay? Here I will want to have this form that lets you input a message and has these buttons, so submit or cancel. Okay, so now my task is to generate this form. And the point is this: I don't have any table to which this form belongs, right? But it so turns out that you can generate in Py4Web also forms that do not correspond to any table, and still you can generate them essentially in the same way. So normally you would say form is equal to form, and you would say db some table. Oh yeah, I need to import the form. From Py4Web.utils.form import form. Okay. So as I was saying, normally you would be able here to say db some table. Let me write it as if we were really doing it. And then we would be able to say CSRF session is equal to session, for the security. And then we would say form style is equal to our form style Bulma, which we have not imported, I'm sorry. Form style Bulma. Form style Bulma. Okay, something like this. Now the trouble is that we don't have a database table, but it turns out that we can put here the list of the fields that would be in the table. So we can say field note, which is a text field. Okay, and this will produce the form for us. Okay, we don't know what field means because we have to import the definition. Okay, so we can look at how we imported it in models if we are ever in doubt, right? Because it's here. The field was imported from common actually, so we do the same. And so we say, from common import field. Okay. So this will generate a form that has one field that is a note. I haven't told you anything about how to process the form yet, but this should work. I mean, it wouldn't do anything if we fill in the form, but we can start in this way and check whether the code we have written works. So if I reload Py4Web, watching for errors, I can go to the web page here, reload these. Okay, so there are two things that are not okay yet. One is that if I click on submit, we do nothing. Okay, first problem, I guess. And the other problem is that I want a button here that says cancel. So let me get both of these things done. So the first fix to add the cancel button is obtained via this line. I say form param sidecar append, and then you can append anything you want to the end of the form. And so I am appending here a span consisting of a space and then of a link labeled cancel that is of class button, so it will be rendered like a button, and it will go back to URL offerings. So if I reload and show you how this works, I've already reloaded in the past. That's how what happens. You have a submit button and then a cancel button that is actually just a link that looks like a button. Okay, so one problem is solved. Now we have just to ensure that the form actually does what is intended to do. So it is useful to consult the documentation of a form. You see that if I can create a form as we did together by specifying the list of fields I want, and then we can say if form accepted, and again, as in the validation lecture, form.vars will contain the various values. Okay, so let us put this into practice. Here I create the form, and here I will do if form.accepted. Okay, insert the note along with the registration. Okay, so I have to essentially create a new entry in this registration table. Okay, first I need to find who is the student ID. You see, this points to the student ID, and instead I have the student email. So let me do this, okay? Get the student ID, because I need the student ID and the class offering ID. The class offering ID, I have it as a result of this value, right? But I need also the student ID. So let us do it. And I say student is equal to db db.student.email is gonna be equal to get user email. Okay, select first, because I'm assuming that there is going to be only one student with that particular ID. And now we can insert the new registration record. And so I say db.registration.insert, and so here we can specify the various attributes. So student ID is equal to student.id. Here I think I would like to put assert student is not none. Okay, so that the student is actually found. Otherwise, you know, you are trying to register, but you're not one of the students. Okay, so perhaps here I could also redirect you to some other URL, or in which I explain you that you are not a student, that you cannot register. I can do whatever I want, okay? But for the moment I just have an assert. So student is ID is gonna be that one. I'm going over the fields of this registration table one by one, okay? Class offering ID is gonna be offering ID, okay, that I have from before. And so you see I'm building the link manually here. Is waitlist is gonna be false. I am assuming that there is space in the class. I haven't written tables that keep track of how many students are enrolled and how many were yada yada. Okay, so that's that you could refine this example in multiple ways. And note is equal to form.vars note. Okay, so this is a note that the user has specified in the form. And registration date is equal to date time UTC now. I always keep dates in UTC. Unfortunately, we don't have the date time module, and so we have to add it to our import list. Import date time. Okay, this solves the problem. And so so this should work. The insertion will happen, and after you have registered, I don't know, I can redirect you to some other place, okay? URL index, for instance. I mean, I need to redirect you somewhere, and so I just choose to redirect you to the index URL. Okay, so this shows you essentially how you can build these connections between tables manually when you do insert. So we have created a completely custom form, this one, and then I'm inserting the data, building the connections between the tables manually. Student ID, I'm gonna set it to student.id. Class offering, I'm gonna set it to the offering ID. And then I'm inserting the rest of the data. So here I fixed the spelling of my registration table. I had written registration. Once this is fixed, I can go back to my form. I can say I really like this class. I can click on submit, and this maybe has done it. So I can go to the dashboard to see it. So this has all the various tables, and now I can look at the content of the registration table, which has one entry for student ID 2, which is luca.delfaro.com, okay. For class offering ID 1, which is this class, which is catalog ID CSE183, and quarter ID spring of 2021, okay. Number active, And it doesn't give me the note. I think it doesn't give me the note because it's a field of type text, and so it doesn't want to give it to me here, okay? But I think the note must be there, and so we can fish it out, I think, if we do a little bit of investigation using directly the terminal. So here we can always do cd databases. Okay, once in the databases we can say SQLite3 storage.db. We can look for the list of tables, and we can say select everything from registration. Okay, and so you see that actually the note is in. It's only that the dashboard does not display it because it thinks that the text field can be very large, and so it defaults to not displaying text fields. Okay, but the code works, and so you have seen essentially how we can build manual forms in which we build them independently of our database tables. We can process them, and we can do the insertion ourselves in such a way that we actually build the connections between these multiple tables.